Hello all and welcome. So today's webinar is about inverse reinforcement learning. My name is Shubha and I am an AI researcher at Cellstrat. So let's begin this webinar on inverse reinforcement learning. Okay, just give me a minute. So the topics that we plan to cover for today is we will try to understand what is inverse reinforcement learning. And once we kind of get a hang of the concept, we will look at there are a few algorithms, IRL algorithms. We will just name those few algorithms and we will pick one particular algorithm, the first one, which is maximum entropy inverse reinforcement learning. So we will understand the details behind this algorithm, and then we will look at a code demo which implements the same. So there are other different IRL algorithms available as well. I will just give a one-liner on how they are different from maximum entropy inverse reinforcement learning, and then probably we will need different sessions to discuss them. And yes, as a prerequisite, this requires that you need to be fairly good with the basic concepts of reinforcement learning. Uh, so with that, let us proceed. So if you have any doubts in between regarding anything, please feel free to ask. So a quick definition of what is reinforcement learning, which all of us know. You have an environment, and within the environment is predefined. So you have an MDP. The MDP will give you is basically a 5 valued tuple, and in your MDP you have your state, action, the reward, and you have a state transition function, and of course you also have a discount factor. So this MDP is how you frame an environment, and this environment has already been framed. This environment is already framed as an MDP problem. So once this is done, we know all that we do in a reinforcement algorithm, reinforcement learning algorithm is we train this agent. This agent has to take an appropriate action, and based on the action that it takes, it returns a reward and also the next state into which the next state based on the action that was taken. And based on this concept, you have the sequence of trajectories. So you start with the initial state as 0 and you take an action, you get a reward, and then so on. You move on to the next state, and in the next state you take another action and you get a different reward. So this is how you frame a reinforcement learning problem. Uh, so when you are writing a program for this agent, you keep in mind the goal of your RL problem. The goal is to maximize the return. So we know that the definition of return G is nothing but the sum of all the future rewards that you will be accumulating. So it is nothing but the sum of all the rewards that you get. And a reward is defined as it is a function which gives you the reward for performing a specific action in a particular state. So once you have this entire environment defined, and once you have the reward function which is defined, then you can use any of the RL algorithms to train your agent to come up with an optimal policy. So this agent has to ultimately come up with an optimal policy. So this is how your basic RL framework is, and this is how any RL algorithm would work. So now, what is the problem with this? Uh, we know that if you take the simple, if you we have already worked on a lot of OpenAI gym problems, something similar to this, all of the Atari games, and here the reward was already defined for us. So it was pretty simple. The entire MDP is given. So if you go to OpenAI's gym and you open any of the environment, the entire MDP is already defined. Your entire MDP is already defined, and the reward functions were also defined as well. But when you look at any of the real world scenarios, something like robotics or autonomous driving or something like this, you have to create your own MDP in the first place. You have to create an MDP, and only after you have created a perfect MDP can you apply any of the RL algorithms to solve that MDP. So all of these things require you to create an MDP. So we have done a couple of problems earlier, like we try to create a chatbot. We try to model a chatbot as an MDP so that you can use RL to to work like a chatbot. Or we also looked at another example where you have the supply chain optimization problem. So you had to create an MDP over there. And then we used a DDPJ algorithm to solve that MDP. But then most of the time, you know that creating an MDP itself could be a huge task. In the next slide, understand why this is a really difficult task. So what is inverse reinforcement learning is, you have to figure out the reward when you have rollouts from an expert policy. So you're given data, you are already given expert data, and using that data, you need to figure out how to create this Um, so in the next slide, let us look at how difficult it is to frame an MDP or define how the reward function should be for a real world scenario. And then we will try to understand how inverse reinforcement learning solves this problem. So take the example of car driving or self-driving car. Now it is too hard to specify the rewards, whereas it is much easier to learn from an expert demonstration. So this is the scenario in most of the cases. If you are trying to assign rewards or create an MDP for a self-driving car, how do you assign relative numerical weights to all of those components which you define as reward? So, is keeping a safe distance from a car in front of you equally important as accelerating smoothly? You will have to define rewards, right? So now this is your street and you have your car. So if you are trying to say if you encounter a red signal, you have to stop. And if it does not stop, it is penalized. Similarly, if it encounters some pedestrian or some other obstacle in between, it has to stop. If it doesn't, it is penalized with a negative reward. Now, how do you assign these rewards? How can you say that stopping for a pedestrian is needs to have a higher weight than stopping for a red signal? Or probably if there is another car over there, moving slightly closer to that needs to be less penalized compared to bumping into something. So defining this entire MDP framework itself can become very difficult. So how do you say what is more important, whether accelerating smoothly is more important, or do you need to keep a safe distance from the car next to you? And if at all you're trying to define rewards also, what are the weights that need to be associated with these rewards? Like, is it twice more important, or is it 1.3 times more important, or things like that? And so in these cases, instead of learning the expert's behavior, you use the expert's demonstration, and you can learn the reward functions from those, assuming that the expert is performing optimally well. So if you have a set of expert demonstrations, in many cases, it is available easily. For example, in cases of self-driving or car driving demonstration, it is easier to get expert demonstration than to build this MDP itself. So in such scenarios, if you can get this kind of expert demonstrations or uh, uh, expert trajectories, so from these set of trajectories, you can derive the reward function. And once you have the correct reward function which has been derived, you can get an optimal policy by applying any of the other RL algorithms. So we have earlier seen this definition of trajectory. Trajectory is nothing but it is the state action reward pair. But now since we have to find out reward, let's just take the state action. So you're in a particular state and you take a particular action. You go to the next state. In the next state, you take a different action. Then you go to another state and you take another different action, and so on till some particular time step t. So this entire thing can be considered as a trajectory. So in episodic tasks, we have seen that an episode can be considered as a trajectory. Whereas if you do not have episodes or something like that, you can just take some kind of horizon or some kind of time step up till some point and consider that as trajectory. So inverse reinforcement learning, as the name itself states, it does exactly the inverse of reinforcement learning. If you're given a set of demonstrations, expert demonstration, which consists of multiple trajectories. So you need multiple trajectories like tau 1, tau 2, tau 3, and so on. You need multiple trajectories which are given to you from expert agents or expert policies. And uh, throughout the state action space, which means that it tells you at every state what is the correct action that you're trying to take. If you're having this information, then IRL aims to recover the underlying reward function. So it tries to get the underlying reward function. Basically, it is nothing but you're trying to give an explanation of why are you behaving like this. It gives an explanation of the behavior of the expert. So this, all of these things you get from D, which is nothing but the information that you have got from expert. From this, if you can get the reward, it would really mean that you're able to explain why the expert is behaving like this. So now, to again summarize the concept of IRL, what we are doing is we have expert demonstration, which you get it from D, and from this expert demonstration, we try to get the rewards. So if I can redefine Markov decision process, you have state, you have actions, different actions that you can take, and you have rewards. So rewards were like, how do you you have to define them manually. So if you're taking the example of supply chain warehouse, you have a main big center, the main factory you have, and you have smaller distribution houses, distribution retailers or warehouses. So the amount of products that has to be shipped from here to here is what you have to decide. And what is the reward function over here will be something like, you will have to consider the transportation cost and the capacity of this and the capacity of this and the storage cost over here, and you will have to consider multiple things when you are defining what should be the reward function in this scenario.
So
So
basically, Shubha, what you are trying to say is that we don't have to manually define the reward paradigm, and
yes,
we observe an expert, which, and from that we derive the reward
yes,
paradigm.
exactly. Yes, exactly. Because
Now this is solving the problem of that we could have defined the reward paradigm incorrectly if we did it manually.
yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so I will try to give another example over here. This simple example I might have given earlier. So this example of you are trying to solve a maze. So you move from start to goal. So the optimal reward that you should be giving over here is, you should say that for every step that you take, you get a reward of -1. And if you reach goal, you get a +10. So this should be, this is something optimal. Every step you take, you get a -1, and so on. So by mistake, what happens if you say every step you take, you get a +1? If by mistake, while framing the MDP itself, if you make a mistake and say for every step that you take in this maze, you get a reward of +1. And when you reach the goal, you get a reward of +10. If you frame the MDP in this way, then what's going to happen is your agent has to agent maximizes the reward. So it could get stuck in an infinite loop over here because it's trying to maximize, and for every step it's taking, it just adds a 111. So if it takes 100 rounds over here, it could get a plus 400. So in order to maximize the reward, it gets stuck and it might never go out. So this could be a simple problem where we can understand that the reward that you have set is wrong. But then in bigger problems, you will probably not be aware of how to set the reward. You require domain expertise and lot of such things. So setting the correct MDP and setting the correct reward function is very important to solve any problem using an RL algorithm.
So while we are at it, could we also observe the state and action pairs, right? So
Uh,
from the real
uh,
agent.
you mean from the expert, is it?
Yeah, in the entire tuple of S, A, and R, we could
Yes. So
observe all of
when
that,
I
right?
say you get expert values, you get see this becomes something similar to supervised learning now. So in supervised learning, you are given the label and the target. So over here, you're given expert data, how an expert would perform in this scenario. So expert data would mean that you're given the in which state, what action did he take? In next state, what action did he take? So in the next state, what action did he take? So all these things are given to you. And based on looking at this expert data, you kind of arrive at the reward. uh, the set of states and actions, it really depends on the environment, and it has to be uh, it is not as difficult as the reward to frame. So you know what are the set of states and you know what are the set of actions that are possible. So it will not be that difficult. The only thing that would be difficult is assigning rewards, which you generally do. You can do it using any of the inverse reinforcement learning algorithms.
It sounds similar to what we call as imitation learning.
So
That is also based on observing agent behavior.
yes, exactly. Yes, exactly. Yes, in some of the papers they have done inverse reinforcement learning using imitation learning. Yes. So there are quite a few algorithms which are available to different IRL algorithms. So one is maximum entropy IRL, which we will be seeing today. The other algorithms are Bayesian inverse reinforcement learning. So this kind of combines the knowledge that you have into prior knowledge and evidence based on the expert's action, and you kind of derive a probability distribution over the space of reward functions. And there is another method, Gale, where you use a GAN. So it is generative adversarial imitation learning, where you use a GAN and the generator is used to generate a new policy by learning the distribution of the expert policy. And you have a discriminator which classifies whether the given policy is an expert policy or an agent policy. And there is another method called as GCL. So basically, maximum entropy IRL has a lot of limitations. So these limitations are overcome by this guided cost learning. One thing that I would like to tell over here is maximum entropy IRL is very much similar, and it draws concepts from dynamic programming. So with dynamic programming, we knew that dynamic programming could be applied only to small problems, and those problems where you knew the state transition matrix. That is, you knew that you're transitioning from one place to another. Only if you know the state transition matrix, only then you can apply a DP, though it is a very fundamental concept. So maximum entropy IRL also kind of uses dynamic programming, and it is similar in the sense you need to know the environment in order to apply this algorithm. This is overcome in the last one, GCL, where you do not need to know the dynamics of the system, and without knowing the dynamics of the system, you can directly apply this algorithm. So let's look into this maximum entropy IRL. So this is how it is. This is your expert data. So in your expert data, you have a state and action. So at every given state, the expert would have taken a particular action. And this is fed into your neural network to get a reward. So it gives you the reward for that state and for that action. So to model a reward function R, it is done by creating a reward which is model which is parameterized by psi. Now you would have seen your general policy gradient algorithms. You pass in the state into your neural network and you get the action out. You get your action. So we used theta as the weights of this neural network. So now, since we are doing the reverse of this with the neural network, it is given a different name. So the parameters of this new neural network that we will be using is named as has the weights psi. So all that you have to do is you have to pass the state and action, which is derived from your expert data, and you get the reward for that particular state and action. So a trajectory is sampled from expert demonstration D, and a reward function is given as the output, and you get this reward function by finding the optimal value for your parameter of the neural network.
Is this supervised or unsupervised? So the Y label, which is the R phi, is it
This
defined?
is no, no, it is not defined. You do not have you do not have, no, it is not supervised. So basically
I mean,
okay,
it would have to be supervised,
I
right? How
was
will you
coming
do?
to that, but let
Okay, okay, fine, we'll wait.
okay, basically how this works is there is something called as ultimately, if I will be getting to that, you will have to calculate, you will define your objective function for this neural network, and you will calculate the gradient of that neural network. And if you look at the objective function and gradient, it is this reward is proportional to the number of times the state was visited. So when you are passing a state and an action pair into this neural network, you also keep track of how many times the state and action were encountered. Using that, you get a state visitation frequency, and you use that state visitation frequency in order to calculate your reward. So it is derived from this fact that since you're using expert data, this expert data will, if it is at a particular state, if it is visiting an action multiple times, then if the frequency is higher, then the reward for that is going to be higher. So that is how it gets derived. We will look at the objective function and also the gradient calculation for this, but this is the crux behind how this neural network works. So you cannot label the rewards. So in supervised learning, you generally kind of write labels, and you cannot label the rewards. So you model the likelihood of a trajectory. You take a trajectory and you model its likelihood. So in policy gradient, we have seen an objective function in maximizing the probability of the trajectory based on the policy. But in inverse RL, you maximize the probability based on the reward instead. And the probability of the expert demonstration is proportional to the exponential of the reward. So basically, you have the probability of the trajectory, and it is told that this probability of the trajectory is directly proportional to the reward that you get. So it is equal to the exponential of the reward that you get for that trajectory divided by a summation of the reward that you get for all of the trajectories, because if you just take this, this will be a big number. We want a probability in the range 0 to 1. So you divide it by the total sum, so that you get uh, a probability for that trajectory. So now you have your expert data. Expert data could have multiple trajectories. So for each of these trajectories, you are defining the probability of each of these trajectories based on this formula. So uh, it is directly proportional to the reward that you get from that trajectory. And uh, you will have to, you are having this maximum entropy because you have to maximize the likelihood of this trajectory if the reward is higher. Higher the rewards, more likely a trajectory would be, similar to the policy gradient, which we have already seen. And this is relative to the reward parameters psi that you get to learn the reward model. So you have a trajectory which is defined. We saw that a trajectory is nothing but a sequence of state, action, and so on. And you have a reward for that trajectory which you are getting from this neural network psi. So you can see the subscript psi, which is nothing but the total reward that you get at every step over here. So for different states, you are going to get rewards. So it is nothing but summation of all of those rewards is the total reward that you get for that trajectory. And D is your expert demonstration. And the probability of the trajectory is given by this formula. This is what we saw previously, the same formula. The probability of the trajectory is given by this, but this denominator is written as Z. So this same formula, 1 divided by Z, where Z is this. So the denominator has been written as Z. This is how you define the probability of your trajectory, and the objective of your neural network would be to maximize the log probability of this trajectory based on your entropy formula. So this is what we even did in policy gradient. But in policy gradient, we were trying to maximize based on the policy that we get. But over here, we are trying to maximize based on the probability of the trajectory that we have. Any questions over here?
Okay, so this is maximum likelihood estimation, like gradient ascent step instead of gradient descent. So we are ascending
Yes.
the gradient.
Yes.
So I'm just trying to still think, does it qualify as supervised or unsupervised? Uh, I guess it becomes unsupervised because you don't have a specific Y label. All you are doing is trying to maximize the probability of the trajectory, and that's where the ideal reward is found. Uh, right, so it becomes unsupervised in that sense.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so a question is, can you give an example for a trajectory? So if you are taking any of the board games, an episode can be called as a trajectory. So if you are playing a game of chess, you have your chess board. A complete game can be called as trajectory. So what would that mean? You start at the first state. So all pawns are neatly arranged. This is the start state. I will call the start state as S0. So in this state as 0, somebody makes a move. So when you make a move, you have performed an action A1. So this pawn moved from here to here. This becomes a new configuration of the board. So that new configuration becomes your next state S1. So in this new configuration, somebody else makes another move, A2, a different action. So every time I say a move will be a move that you make in the game of chess. But if you are speaking from the point of view of an RL problem, that's an action. So somebody else takes a different action, and that becomes A2. Which, so now the configuration of the board has changed. This pawn is no longer here, it is here now. So which means that it has led to another configuration, which is S2. So this goes on and on till the game ends. So this entire thing can be called as a trajectory. This is a trajectory in the example of the game of chess. So the game of chess and other games are called as episodic tasks because it ends ultimately. You have an episode and it ends. But there could be non-episodic tasks where it does not end. So in those scenarios, a trajectory is just defined as you just take some amount like S0, S1, S1 so on till time step t, and at time step t you say all of this forms one trajectory since it does not episodic and it does not end. So in order to train our neural network now, you need lot of expert data. Expert data would mean lot of expert data, experts who have played chess. You need all of those trajectories, T1, Tau 2, Tau 3, Tau 4, so on. And once you get all of these trajectories, you create a neural, you pass these into the neural network to get your reward, to define what is your reward function by maximizing the total reward that you get for that trajectory. So the probability of that trajectory is nothing but it is directly proportional to the reward that you get from that trajectory, and we need to maximize the probability of that trajectory which generates the most reward from this expert data. um, let's move on. So this is some simple math like manipulations that is being done. So we have to maximize our objective function with respect to psi, and this entire thing is coming from D. D is your expert data. So you have to maximize the log probability of your trajectory, and your probability of the trajectory is given by, we saw in the previous slide that probability of the trajectory is the exponent of the reward that you get divided by z, where z is the sum of all rewards for all of the trajectories. And I think here they have used log of a divided by log of b is log of a minus log of a by b is log a minus log b. And there is a term m over here which is giving you the number of demonstration trajectories. And so this log of z is rewritten as for all of the trajectories. So if you're having m trajectories, for each of m into log of that many trajectories times the reward that you get for that trajectory. So this okay, multiple places this integral sign is used to denote sum. So that summation is given like this times the number of demonstration trajectories that you have. So a question over here. uh, there is a two-step process in using the expert data to define the trajectory and define the reward function, and in the second step use this reward function for the operation. Yes. So every time you in the okay, in the last slide I have kind of got the algorithm and put it together. So yes, every time once you pass the expert data into the neural network, you get out a reward. So that reward is used in the next step. In you're passing it into your neural network based on the reward that you get out every time. You try to maximize your probability of the trajectory. Yes, so that reward that you get out every time is being used. So you can see that it is written here R of the reward that you get for that trajectory based on the parameter psi.
So there
So
is no y
your
involved, so it is
objective,
not supervised. There is no y here. I'm
it
just
is not
maximizing the
supervised.
probability.
No, no, it is not. No. So this kind of you're calculating the gradient of your loss function, which you already have earlier. So taking the gradient of the first term, if you see there are two terms over here. One is the reward that you get for the trajectory minus m log exponent of the reward that you get for the trajectory. So taking gradient of both the terms, this is gradient of the first term and gradient of the second term. The constants, you've just got the constants outside over here, and this also comes over here, minus m times this divided by this times the derivative of your trajectory. And over here what is happening is this entire thing is replaced with this value, which is probability of the trajectory. So probability of the trajectory is what we saw earlier, and this probability of the trajectory is, while writing our algorithm, it is replaced with the state visitation frequency. So this is also called as the state visitation frequency, which means uh, in this trajectory, you see all the states that are encountered and take the number of times that particular state has been visited. So if the state visitation frequency is high, then the reward that will be assigned, or the uh, or you're trying to maximize the probability of that trajectory, that increases, otherwise it decreases. So now
I'm
in this
thinking it's
gradient
the opposite
calculation, we
here.
have to calculate this first.
If you notice, it's a negative sign. So P of S should be less to make the overall expression higher, no? Because this overall expression has to be
Okay.
maximized, not minimized. So PFS has to be less for the negative sign to become positive.
Okay.
I'm just thinking like that
I
because
will.
the left text term has to be maximized, right? Or it has to be minimized.
No, this becomes theta is theta plus alpha times your gradient. So yeah, I guess so. Okay, I have to check on what is the relation between this state visitation frequency and this gradient term over here. But what we have to concentrate over here is we have to concentrate on how we calculate the state visitation frequency. So this is something that you have to calculate in order to get the value for the gradient. So in the next slide, we will be looking at how this is calculated. But yes, as Vivek told, uh, I, we will have to see how this is related to your gradient, whether is it directly proportional or is it inversely proportional is what I have to check. Okay, calculating this, you need to be familiar with this concept called as value iteration. Value iteration has been explained in dynamic programming module 3 of DRL. So basically the value at any given state S of t plus 1, you get this by adding the reward that you get at state S of t plus 1 plus the value that you have at state S of t. So you do it for multiple iterations and you calculate the value. Basically, initially when you start with state S0, you assign it with some arbitrary random values. Probably you can just assign it with zeros, and then uh, you use that to calculate the value at the next time step, value of that state at the next time step. So this is the concept of value iteration. I am explaining this concept very briefly over here, but then it is a full webinar by itself and you need to be familiar with that concept. So you use value iteration to calculate the probability of visiting a state S at time step t. So this mu is nothing but your state visitation frequency. So state visitation frequency of S at time step t at the next step at time step t plus 1 makes use of the value of that state at time step t times your policy times your state transition probability matrix. So once you have the visitation frequencies computed, this can be, this is your state visitation frequency that you get, and this can be embedded in your gradient formula. So I will run through an algorithm recap over here so that you kind of get an idea of what is happening. So you initialize your network parameters phi and you gather expert demonstrations. The task is so you have your neural network, and this neural network gives out a reward every time using by parameters psi, and you use this reward and you come up with an optimal policy pi. You use this policy pi to get your state visitation frequency t in the slide which we saw before. You use the state visitation frequency and compute your gradient. And once you compute your gradient, you update your the weights of your neural network once again. So there is an intermediate step over here. Why are you finding the optimal policy every time? You find the optimal policy every time using the reward that you already have, using the value iteration method. Over here, you use value iteration method and you find an optimal policy. And once you have an optimal policy, you use that optimal policy to get your state visitation frequency. And you get the state visitation frequency, and then you use that in your gradient computation. And then you repeat this. So once the weight of the neural network is again updated, you will be getting new rewards and you will get a new optimal policy. This is the overall algorithm. So if you want, I will probably pause here for a minute and I can take you back. I can give a quick recap of, we can do a quick recap of the derivation that we already saw. So any questions, anyone?
The RL knowledge would have to be assumed. Without RL knowledge, understanding this is quite difficult.
Yes, yes. So I'll try to explain that algorithm now using this neural network. You have expert demonstration and you pass it into your neural network. This gives out a reward. And you use this reward and you find an optimal policy. Optimal policy is indicated by pi star. How do you find an optimal policy? You use value iteration. You use value iteration and you figure out the optimal policy. And once you have an optimal policy, you use this optimal policy to calculate the state visitation frequency by using parameter psi. And once you have this state visitation frequency, so you have a policy. So in the policy, you know how often do you visit a particular state. And once you have the state visitation frequency, you compute the gradient. And since you have already computed the gradient, you know you update the weights of the neural network. So psi is psi plus alpha times g. So you update the weights of the neural network, and once you have updated, you go back again over here, you get a different reward. Again, when you get a different reward, you will again have to calculate the optimal policy for that new reward. And then again this state visitation frequency and again the gradient, and this process repeats. So the drawback with this method is, since you're trying to calculate this value iteration, it uses dynamic programming. And for dynamic programming, we assume that you need to be completely aware of the dynamics of the system, which is your state transition probability matrix. So most of the times, we are not aware of this state transition probability matrix. So that is the reason this approach can be applied only to smaller problems, or it can only be applied to smaller problems or simpler problems where this the dynamics of the model.
End goal here is to find the ideal policy still, right? I mean, end goal
You
for any
have to
RL
find the
problem is to
ideal
find.
reward. You
Okay.
find the reward because the goal we are trying to achieve is to create the correct MDP. So you'll have to create the correct reward. You have to create the correct MDP, and you have to create a good reward function. So the goal over here is to create a good
So once
reward
we
function.
find the reward function, we have our policy defined, right? Or we
Yeah,
still
it
have
will
to do
again be
usual
another.
RL after that.
Uh, yeah, actually, yeah. Once you get a good reward over here, uh, you you would have already done this value iteration over here. So it is the same thing. Since these are simple problems, I mean just small problems, like just like grid world. This approach cannot be used for bigger problems. So you would have already done this here. You can either use the same thing, or you can also use any of the RL algorithms to calculate this policy. So if I
Okay.
would go back over here, there are other advanced IRL algorithms like Gale and GCL. So in all of these things, uh, it uses a GAN. So there is a generator which generates a new policy by learning the distribution from the expert policy, and you also have a discriminator which says whether this policy is your expert policy or agent policy. And there is also another method called GCL. So based after, once you're done with this, you can look into some advanced algorithms where it does it more efficiently. But this is something like, as I told before, this is something like dynamic programming. It can be applied only to simpler problems, and it is more to understand the basics. So once you are familiar with the basics, we can go to the next algorithm. So yeah, a quick recap is, you pass it into your neural network to get the reward. Uh, so this is defined as modeling a trajectory and increasing the probability of the trajectory, which gives out high rewards. So it has got this name maximum entropy because we are trying to maximum likelihood problem. You are trying to improve the probability likelihood of the trajectory that gives you the better reward. And this is some explanation of some key terms. So you have defined a trajectory, you know what is your reward, and you know what is the expert demonstration. So based on this, you have to maximize this. And to maximize, this was the derivation that we just saw. So maximize, the thing would be maximizing the log probability of the trajectory. So by doing some simple manipulation, this boils down to this formula. And when you take a derivative of the same, you have a first term over here and you have a second term. And the second term uses a state visitation frequency. So to calculate state visitation frequency, you use value iteration from dynamic programming. And this first term requires some more explanation, so I will come to that. This is nothing but the probability of visiting state at time step t, and you use value iteration to improve this probability, to calculate this probability. And once you have calculated it, you can put it into your gradient function. So if you have any questions, so please do ask. So moving on, okay, this one version of uh, uh, the algorithm. So I have this was explained in UCL Berkeley. So based on their videos and their slides, I have got this explanation. But uh, if you look at the paper itself, I will go to the paper once. So this is the paper that you have. So if you look at this paper itself, they have explained the same thing, but then they have used the terminology over here. The terminology that they have used is the reward that you have is directly proportional. This symbol over here is tau. So the reward that you have is directly proportional to your feature count. Feature is nothing but uh, the different states are represented as a feature vector, and feature count is nothing but the count of all the features that you have for a particular trajectory. So that is your feature count, and this reward function is given as uh, theta to the power t. Over here they are taking the network weight as theta to the power t times your feature count. So this is the terminology that they are using over here. So what we do is, in our if we are, when we are trying to implement this using code, this first term I told the derivative, this first term becomes this comes as a feature count in our code. I will try to explain that briefly. I tried to put a couple of slides in the end to kind of tell the different explanation which is given in the paper. But then the first explanation that I gave has come from is what was explained in UCL Berkeley. So over here it says that the reward is nothing but the reward that you get. Just a minute, is directly proportional to the feature vector that you have, and you also have a feature count for that trajectory. And once that is done, the rest are the same. So you have your probability of the trajectory, which is nothing but this divided by z, and z was nothing but the uh, uh, total probability of that entire trajectory. So over here, this first term that we saw in the loss function, that they have replaced it with the feature count over here. And the average of the feature count is just a feature expectation that has been substituted. So when we are trying to implement this using code, what we will do is we will replace this first term with a feature count, and the second term we will try to calculate the state visitation frequency, and the third term is again the feature count. So using all of these things, we will calculate the gradient and then hence the reward function. So let's look at, I have got this code from a GitHub repository, which has nicely implemented everything on that paper. So they have also given a complete explanation of the entire concept. So this concept that they have explained over here is as per the research paper which I just showed. But if you look at this paper, okay, the symbol is tau as I told. So if you look at this paper, all the other things are very much similar to what we have seen. So different helper functions have been defined to create a simple grid world, and you have a trajectory. So it generates trajectories based on either expert data or from the policy that we also have, and other helper functions have been defined, and you create your grid world problem. This is created as a 5x5 grid world, which has a which is a slippery grid world. So this is what I was talking about. In case you have missed, this is the probability of the environment. So just look at this. The MDP is created as a square grid world with 5 cross 5 steps where the agent can move in any of the adjacent states. And if it moves over the edge, it will stay in the same state. And in any other case, it will go to the next state. And in order to introduce stochastic transition dynamics, you have a 20% probability of slipping. So in your grid world problem, there is a 20% chance of slipping. So when you take an action, you can either go to the next state or you might slip back and fall into the same state. So this is the stochasticity of the environment or the dynamics of the environment, which you need to know before trying to solve a problem using the maximum entropy approach. And the next thing is you generate expert trajectories. So over here they have used value iteration. They use a simple standard value iteration based on the model that was created, and they generate expert trajectories, some 200 expert trajectories over here. And this has been told, this has been shown on this grid. So this is your goal, and once you reach this particular goal, the reward is very high, and the reward is just initialized as 0 everywhere else. And this is your expert policy and expert trajectory. So you can see that each of these squares over here is divided into 4 parts. So basically uh, 4 different actions, left, right, up and down. And for the expert trajectories, the for the action, that is if you are in any particular state over here, the upper action has a higher reward. So that is how this defined over here. And you have other trajectory, average feature expectation calculation from trajectory is there, and you initialize your initial probabilities. And here comes our main part where you computed the state, compute the state visitation frequency. So you calculate the state visitation frequency by using the reward that you already have, and by using the reward that you already have, and then you use value iteration to get the optimal policy, and then you calculate the state visitation frequency. And finally, to implement your maximum entropy IRL, if you look at
Yeah, there is
the
some voice disturbance.
gradient
Some voice
calculus
disturbance is there.
calculus. So, okay, I'm not sure. Is it okay now?
It's okay now. Now it's okay.
Better now, Vivek?
Yes, now it's okay.
Okay. So the gradient calculation over here. Okay. So as per the formula which we saw previously, the gradient calculation happens by uh, including this feature count and your state visitation frequency. So it kind of boils down to this formula that we saw over here. And yeah, based on this, your original reward and your recovered reward has been plotted. So you can see that the reward is based on this map. This was the recovered reward by applying this maximum entropy IRL algorithm. So this GitHub is this was not implemented by me. I found the implementation online, but the implementation is exactly as per the paper. So it is also they've given a good read over here in the beginning to explain multiple RL concepts and how maximum entropy is applied to this. But then to understand this paper, you need to read the original paper once, and it is slightly different from the University of Berkeley, which we saw. Okay, this is okay, based on there is a recording from here. So based on this recording, from based on this, I have explained this derivation. So you can, once you understand this derivation, you can compare it with what is on paper, and then go in, get into the code to understand it better. So if any of you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
So yeah, it's somewhat complex. So I guess you have to review our personal time. It is a bit new concept, and even knowing RL is still a somewhat new concept. So it needs some re-review. So you are saying, Shubha, there is a family of algos in this
Yes,
inverse RL
yes,
space, huh? So this is a kind of a
yes,
new emerging area, or it has
yes.
been there for a while?
It has been there for a while. The first paper was written in 2004, I guess, by Andrew Ng itself and some other author. So yeah, that was the first paper that they wrote, and mm, yeah, this is what we saw. But
Yeah, we
there
were
is
going
then
to have
this
a
is the
webinar
first
on
paper
Gale.
that they wrote.
The Gale webinar was going to happen by Bhavesh, but it didn't
I did
happen. So okay,
on what topic?
on GAIL, the one you had there. So Bhavesh had planned a webinar, but then he
Oh,
cancelled
oh,
it
okay,
for now.
okay,
So quite a bit of study for all of us to do.
okay.
RL seems to be still just getting started, not ending, even with our massive RL course. Okay, so are we
So
done?
this initial paper, this I think this was yes, I will stop recording. Uh, s- so this